Pine School families and friends, we gather on this special day recognizing our diversity in beliefs, values, and faith traditions, but honoring our unity and gratitude. In a world where many do not have the opportunities that we enjoy, we are thankful for the achievements and honors we celebrate today. In a world where many have a difficult future, we are thankful for the dreams, hopes, and plans that have been nourished within our community. In a world where many have no community, we are thankful for the support of our mentors, teachers, family, and friends. As we go on from this special day, on different paths to different experiences and different destinies, may our gratitude unite us always in the desire of using all that we are and all that we have for the common good, so that reasons to be thankful will fill our lives each day. Honoring our unity and gratitude, I invite you to reflect on all that is yet to be, while expressing thanks for the gift of intellect, goals met, the support of family and friends, and a community that encourages and celebrates education. May our gratitude on this special day grow into peace for each and freedom to live, work, and serve throughout all our days.
Good morning. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'm very honored to be able to help celebrate these 37 amazing Pine School graduates today. You all are a part of this wonderful Pine School community. Some of you since age 3, and some of you for a short while, but each of you have added to the fabric of our family. We've all watched you grow into independent young men and women with your own personality and style. You have been mentors to our younger knights. You've each found your own strengths and represented the school well in the classroom, on the sports fields, and in the arts. And as we celebrate your graduation today, the Pine School is filled with pride, but we are also filled with anticipation. As we celebrate your graduation, the Pine School's job might be finished as you walk across this stage. Our goal was to give you the knowledge and the tools to go out into the larger world and find your own success. As each of you head out across the nation to chase your dreams or find a new home in college, we sit and wait in anticipation. We know you will do great things. We know you will put in the hard work to find success. We know each of you will have your own story, and we can't wait until you come back home from school to share it with your family. Once a night, always a night, and this is your home. Congratulations, Pine School graduates of 2019.
Good afternoon, and welcome families, trustees, faculty, and staff, friends of the Pine School, and most especially a welcome to our seniors, the members of the class of 2019. We've been anticipating this day for a while now and have finally arrived. I speak for everyone here who has come to witness your graduation when I say how proud and elated we are to celebrate with you at the Pine School's 11th commencement ceremony. It is my sincere honor to be here with you this afternoon and convey diplomas to these students, 4 of whom have been at the Pine School as Knights their entire education. Last night, we enjoyed a heartfelt baccalaureate service where we began the process of sending our graduates on to their next adventure. Thank you to Mr. Nathan Washer and Gabriel Tedamante for their heartfelt speeches, and also to our student performers for the beautiful music. Seniors, you've done it. You've arrived at this place after days and weeks and years of showing up for school, playing hard, studying endlessly, and enjoying friendships. I'll have time later in our ceremony to wax poetic with you a bit, but for now, I say, let's not delay. Let's get this celebration started. Today, two members of the class of 2019 will address us. Selected by their peers, our student speakers will offer reflections and parting words on behalf of their classmates. Our first speaker today will be Noah Coulter. Noah is this class's Pine Scholar and received the Potsdam Award, the Pine School's top award, at last week's Evening of Academic Excellence. This young man has fully immersed himself in so much of what the Pine School has to offer. He was a 3-season athlete and a trumpeter in our band program. Most importantly, with his genuine goodwill and love of learning, Noah has elevated our school in immeasurable ways. Please welcome Noah Coulter.
Ahem. Let's see what we got here. Thank you, Mrs. Caffrey, and good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wait, hold on. I hope it stays. There we go. Before I begin, I would like to address the chicken to my left. I told myself that I promised, if I ever spoke at graduation, that I'd have it here with me for moral support. And as you can tell, that promise was made in 9th grade. So, on to more important matters. I'd first and foremost like to address all the parents in the auditorium that helped their children make it this far. Please give them a round of applause. To our teachers as well, without your guidance, we'd be at a great disadvantage, so thank you. Yeah. And to the class of 2019, thank you for giving me this platform to speak on behalf of our legacy at the Pine School. And lastly, to my parents, Ma and Pa, to my brother Jonah, and to all of my family here, I could say I love you a million times and it would never be enough, so thank you too. I love you. So we're going to start now. I'm absolutely humbled to be speaking in front of all of you today. And I'm sure you'll all be thrilled to hear that what I have planned to speak about today is actually about all of you. To all of you who I've known throughout my life, simply put, I'm forever grateful to have crossed your path. Whether I was passing out in your arms as an infant, or spending early learning with you, choking on Play-Doh and stepping on Legos, or perhaps we had met in high school when we needed a study partner for our first AP exam, or we figured out we both like hitting each other with lacrosse sticks. Or maybe we just became friends this last year of our long-tenured educational experience. No matter when we met or what we did, you all matter to me. You all contributed a piece of your heart and mind to my own, and changed me for the good. And I'm sure all of you can relate to such a phenomenon. That is the phenomenon of human nature. We mix and mingle, people come and go, and change each other forever. A brush of the shoulder and you can meet a lifelong friend. Drop your binder in the hallway, and you can meet your future soulmate. Or you could literally run into a crippled old man, which was what my toddler brother Jonah did to Joe Namath one Sunday morning at Publix. Joe influenced him to play flag football when we met again at 12 years old, and we met so many new friends. At this very moment, you could have been sitting at another school's graduation, but your parents chose to invest your education here. And keep in mind, all of those teachers and friends that you've met here at Pine, they would have never played a part in your life, all because of that one choice to attend school in Hope Sound. My parents always remind me, especially in my final year of high school, that I came to Pine kicking and screaming. I was going to miss my old school, my kind teachers and my childhood friends, making comic books in science class, recess on the monkey bars, and that scorching hot feeling of the metal, climbing above that eerie mulch pit far below me. It sounds scary, but it felt like a second home, which is what school should be for a child. Now, I hated going to school. The 40-minute drive from my home through the messy Stewart traffic north towards the lower campus, sharing the road with old people, angry snowbirds, and careless texters. On a noisy, crammed bus with no one I knew except for my brother, who wouldn't talk to me, and some cute girls who also didn't want to talk to me. Some life. I didn't like meeting new kids. I used to be introverted. Mind you, I was in 5th grade, but I had socially isolated myself. Nonetheless, I chose to look outside myself. New peers in class were succeeding, working hard, and they were going to leave me behind if I didn't join them. I was surrounded by so many young scholars, your class of 2019, and they were going to continue to learn and grow with or without me. I chose to emulate them, to look up to the smarter kids that I saw every day. I am not a natural genius. I never was, but I could be creative. And I learned that everyone around me has a lesson to learn from, and that they actually didn't mind sharing after all. Growing closer to my new classmates helped me form a foundation for myself and sparked my growth here at the Pine School. And when you end up in some new, unknown world, like college, because you've spent your whole life in a perfect Floridian bubble, remember to look outside yourself. Beg yourself to remember that, and also try to remember this speech, because when you lay your head down onto your pillow tonight and scroll through a long thread of identical Instagram posts, and when you wake up a week from now and Mr. Ankrum put the graduation photos on Flickr, many will have forgotten, but you will have the willpower to choose not to. You will have gained a unique perspective of the world, a new approach to life in general. When you venture out into the adult world, you may succeed and expect recognition, or you may fail and want reassurance, but the world moves on with or without you. Know in your heart and mind that although you may think you're prepared, you're still just a new student on a noisy bus ride, but this time the cute girls are hitting on you. Those new professors and bosses who you'll meet are now your new teachers, and the old school you have left behind will always be that safe environment you'll have to miss every once in a while. It should be in your intention to seek positivity, and the truth is, sometimes you can end up with the opposite. It's common knowledge that a fair amount of negativity exists in our world. This of which I'd like to credit my first experience to a girl I had met at the end of a middle school soccer match. The way she subtly insulted me to my face for identifying myself as a Jew. Some of my teammates are sitting here today and they remember, and I won't ever forget how I chose a shy, intimidated boy to follow her back with her team after the handshakes and tell her, you're supposed to say good game. My parents taught me good manners, my teammates taught me collaboration, and my coaches taught me respect. And the way I look at it, although those words came out of my mouth, there was a part of you all in each word I said, so thank you. It is true that you will face a lot of negative influence, but it's how you respond to that negativity in the moment, how you choose to face the adversity of life or the positivity of it that characterize you as a person. Little do you know, everyone in your life watches while you act. They'll recognize how you chose to work with your peers and not to step over them, that it is beneficial to love each other's success and to learn to grow together. That puts the value to the camaraderie of a now graduating class. Life is all about chance and decisions, the butterfly effect, and the fact is that your life is a 1 in 400 trillion chance from conception. You could win an unhealthy amount of lotteries with those chances. So I advise you all, run alongside the human race. Engage yourself with others. Go out into the world and embrace its adversity. Take the positivity of the people who cross your path to success and that want you to succeed and learn from the negativity of others. Create a new perspective. The actions of the people you will meet will change your life forever. Thank you. I'm gonna take my chicken.
Yeah. Thanks, Noah. Thank you, Noah. Our second student speaker this afternoon is Macy Washer. Another long-standing member of our school community, Macy has been at the Pine School since early learning. This past year, Macy supported her class and our school as our head girl prefect. She is the organizer, the planner, the member of this class that helps get much done and makes it fun. A Pine School night through and through, Macy is an impressive young lady with perseverance that will take her far in life. Please welcome Macy Washer.
Thank you, Ms. Caffrey, and good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Macy Washer, and I've been going to school here since I was 3. but that might as well have been my entire life because I don't remember a time before coming to the Pine School. And with that has come many lessons, amazing teachers, and a great grade that has given me so many great stories. So many of these stories can be seen on my cap today, where I've made a collage out of pictures of all my favorite memories. One of my earliest memories is when I was in aftercare at the lower school campus, and I would run up to the fence on the playground to try and distract my dad while he was coaching a soccer or lacrosse game. It's around that same I'm told that me and fellow lifer Naya Mater got into a fist fight. Over what, I'm not sure, and I still can't recall this, but our parents very much remember this. I remember 4th grade reading time with Miss Quisenberry and how into the books we would all get because we needed to know why there was a ghost living in the creepy house down the road. It was in our middle school years that many of my close friends came to the Pine School, and I met them for the first time. I remember me and Naya running up to meet Olivia Siegel when she came to visit on field day and liking her instantly, and then begging Coach Keenan to let her join in on the relay race and being swiftly turned down. I remember 5th grade dressing up as Mr. Hilton Green for Halloween with Naya, Olivia, Grace, and Anna. And I remember all the middle school Evening of the Arts dances that the girls in the grade would perform. When we got to high school, even more of my kids came to the Pine School and that are still here today. And with that came even more adventures. We went to the Keys on our class trip and swam with dolphins. And we attempted Pompeii for our homecoming hallway and had many mishaps. Luckily, by sophomore year, we had the whole high school thing figured out, and homecoming that year was much more of a success. That year, we went to look at colleges on our class trip, and by far, my favorite memory is leaving a sleeping Sebastian on the bus and having him call us, whispering through the phone on asking what he should do, and then seeing him running to catch up with us a few moments later. There were card games in the hotel hallways and impromptu visits to Mikey's brother at college. By the time we got to junior year, it was a whirlwind of college applications, a failed homecoming hallway, SAT tests, and a homelessness. But it all led us to this year that, for me at least, has been the most memorable yet. Lake Aurora, on the first week of school, was filled with games and fun in the water. During homecoming week, I was sure there was no way we were going to pull it off this year. To then see all of you show up and come together to get the work done and produce an amazing hallway. I remember looking on our hallway at the end of setups and thinking there was no way we were losing now, and then sending a text in our grade group chat about how much I loved you all because I was so happy and proud of what we had pulled off. The North Carolina trip was a cold but fun adventure, whether it was traveling hours to make our own ramen, ziplining and whitewater rafting, or doing the guys' makeup, it was always a blast. Eventually, we all started hearing back from our colleges, and the weight of the next 4 years seemed a lot less heavy. I think we will all remember Ryan and Jeffrey's capstone, as Jeffrey gave us a prime napping spot in the senior lounge, and Ryan turned our own antics into our very own Friends theme song that made many of us cry. Our last field day was filled with passion, heart, and a lot of grass stains, and had an outcome that most people wouldn't expect. And while my annual birthday party didn't take place after field day this year, I can still remember my mom's fear every year leading up to that time, because as the parties multiplied, as did Enzo's injuries. I'm going to especially miss when a new Marvel movie would be announced, and me and Phoenix would spend the weeks leading up to the release date discussing all of our theories about the trailers we had seen. Or watching the boys go from class to class on Valentine's Day, trying their best to carry a tune, many times failing, but every once in a while giving a star-studded performance. Watching a soccer game will never be the same when it's not my friends playing or my dad coaching. To my dad's dismay, I never caught the soccer bug, but the girls I played volleyball with every year since 4th grade have become my second family. I will always look back on these years as the best years of high school because of these memories and the people they brought me closer to. This year, I feel I have cemented friendships I'm positive aren't going anywhere. Throughout this year, when I would whine in class about how depressing leaving would be, I lost count of the number of times people tried to reassure me by saying that it's not a big deal because really you will get 1 or 2 friends from high school that you will stay in touch with. And all I could think was, you don't know me or my grade. I'm sure if you ask my fellow students sitting in front of me, they would tell you about the numerous times I've come up to them just to pester them about whatever's happening in their life. And don't think just because we're graduating and we'll be at different schools that this will stop. Now I'm just going to have to annoy you over the phone, so you better pick up. A memory from this year that jumped out at me when I came to write this speech was when Nick Vishissi or something came to speak to us this year. And one thing he said that really stuck with me is when he talked about love. He said that no relationship is the same because no one person is the same, and therefore your love for that person is unique. And me being me, of course, I related that to my fellow classmates. I remember getting really sad and tearing up because I thought about my classmates sitting around me, and I just remember thinking that I'm never going to meet another person like them. I'm never going to have the same friendship I have with them with anyone else. And vowing to myself then that I was going to make the most of the time I had left with you guys and definitely not lose touch with you either, because those are the unique friendships that I want to never lose. My wish for you all is that you go out into the world and get everything you dream of. But while you're out there chasing those dreams, be open to having those dreams evolve as you evolve into the people you are going to be. Thinking back on my last 15 years at the Pine School, it's hard to believe that when we are older, this will have been such a brief time in our lives. And with that in mind, I want you to trace those dreams with everything you have. Fall down a lot so that when you achieve those dreams, you have lessons upon lessons to pull from. When we get to be old, I know that every memory and every fall will have been a stepping stone to the people we are. And while you're out there conquering the world, I want to make sure that you text and call me with updates. I want to say thank you to my class firstly for giving me the honor of speaking in front of you today, for being a part of every memory in this speech. You guys are some of the greatest people I've ever met, and I have no doubt that this is in no small part due to the small school atmosphere that I got the pleasure of being friends with each and every one of you, and have these memories that are going to last me a lifetime. Thank you to the faculty of the Pine School for everything you have done to support me in this pursuit of my academic dreams. Whether it was on the court or in the classroom, you guys were always there to help us support us in everything we did. Thank you to my family for everything you have done for me. You are my biggest cheerleaders. With my many falls throughout high school, I'm sure I would have gotten up a lot less gracefully without your constant love and support. And thank you to the Pine School. These have been years I will never forget, and I will always look back on with joy because they brought me all these memories and they brought me closer to all of you. I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Macy, for that magnificent walk through time. Now we're on to the part where I get to talk just a little bit. To introduce our commencement speaker today, let me first tell you something I have in common with Mr. Hughes. We both believe that space and the structures we inhabit and in which we spend our time inform our activities and experiences. How very extraordinary when this can happen in a school, when the buildings themselves can inspire one's learning. I had no idea how profoundly architecture could shape my education until I was a senior in high school and stepped onto the campus at Phillips Exeter Academy. To feel the worn marble steps up to the assembly hall that had been smoothed down by generations of students before me, or to walk into a cozy classroom and take a seat at a Harkness table with my peers and teacher. It was to be a part of a greater community of learners. My favorite building on campus was the library. Designed by Louis Kahn, the Academy Library is striking in its use of geometry, open space, light, and modern brick design. The program requirements document, published in 1966, was unique in its breadth and specifically stated that the emphasis should not be on housing books, but on housing readers using books. My experience of the building, without a doubt, resonated with that emphasis. I left Exeter and went on to Williams College, then University of California, San Diego, both two more great campuses, extraordinary in different ways. After graduate school, I next stepped onto a school campus as a teacher at the Bishop School, which was founded in 1909 and designed by Irving Gill, a Southern Californian architect who pioneered early 20th century modernism in the region. The Bishop's campus, with its symmetric arches, tall bell tower, linear arcades, and sweeping central quad, is yet another beautiful place to be both a student and a teacher. Imagine my delight knowing how much I have come to value architectural design for places of learning, to catch the first view I had of the Pine School. Spreading out on a breathtaking, expansive campus, our central building is yet one more place where design informs experience. I knew immediately that this school could be yet one more place where space stimulates the mind. Students, you have a rare opportunity today, one I never had, as you will get to understand your place of learning from the person who designed your school. It is very fitting that we hear from Mr. Hughes today, as you are graduating the Pine School in its 50th year. The school buildings have changed over the past 5 decades in a remarkable way, and in no small part where we find ourselves is because of the vision and talent of Mr. Hughes, who imagined a place we would come together as a learning community. Mr. Scott Hughes began his architectural studies at the University of Virginia, then earned a master's in architecture from the Southern California Institute of Architecture. Mr. Hughes was a founding principal of Hughes Ummenhauer Architects, a firm that has been recognized over 30 times for design excellence by its peers in the American Institute of Architects. I'm sure, from being on this campus, you can appreciate his skill for his creative and unique designs that blend form and program. Indeed, the accolades he's earned and for numerous projects are impressive. I've gotten to know Mr. Hughes a bit more personally, as he is the architect for the Pine School's new building project. He is, in his heart, an artist to me, ever insistent in the integrity of his designs and determined to always create something beautiful. Without delay, I introduce to you Mr. Scott Hughes.
Well, that's quite an introduction, I have to say. Actually, I know all the buildings that you referred to, that you went to. Very impressive. Head of school, board members, faculty, parents, and most importantly, to the Pine School graduating class of 2019, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's an honor to be added to the list of distinguished speakers who have occupied this podium in the past. I'd hoped that I would get to wear a robe, but apparently I didn't make the cut for that. That's just on the suggestion list for the future. As an architect, I give a lot of presentations and a fair amount of public speaking, but when the head of school asked me to speak, I reacted to her invitation with a bit of apprehension, not just because I've never given a commencement speech before, but in an unusual moment of self-awareness for me, I asked, what does an aging baby boomer have to offer to a group of very accomplished Gen Z graduates? And most of my peers said they didn't think much. But I'm going to give it a chance. It's risky to give advice, and my experiences will always differ from yours, and perhaps my responses to those experiences will be hard for other people to relate to. So take what I say today for what it's worth. It stems from what I've learned and what has worked for me. And I'm going to describe for you a journey during which I discovered that I had taken a wrong turn and had to reverse course and start again. And how today, after having gone through that, I don't regret a single step. So here goes. I'm an architect and I love what I do. But I haven't always loved being an architect. And the point of this talk is to recount the journey that I've taken to retain that love and what I always knew I wanted to be. But to be clear, I'm not encouraging anyone to go into architecture. So, Mr. Upton, plug your ears on this. The reason for that lack of encouragement, there are many reasons. There are too many of us out there already. The pay sucks, and besides, everyone thinks they already are an architect. But I digress. I will try to use my feelings about architecture, remind you of some of the architectural experiences here at the Pine School that we have shared together, and to encourage you to find the thing you love. There we go. Worked. First, we shape our buildings, and our buildings shape us. Winston Churchill said it in a little different way. He sort of said it in a British way, but he's the source of that. And let me sort of give you an example of what that means to me. So, of course, this is a picture of the Pine School, built in 2008, and this is taken from the Pine School website, with celebrated educators, beautiful facilities, and multiple accreditations. It's easy to see why families entrust their children's entire pre-college education to us. And that environment created this. In contrast, that was my high school, St. James School in Hagerstown, Maryland, built in 1848. And this is taken from its website. Living in our community means always having someone to hang out with and to learn from and to lean on. Actually, this was a rather depressing place in the 70s when I attended it there, and it had changed at that time very little since 1848. And that environment created this. That's my graduating class. That's me in the back there. So Churchill perhaps was right, that architecture perhaps does matter. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the inspiration for the design of your school, and not many people know this. Not long after I moved to Florida, a group of your school leaders at that time met with me and asked if I would design the new campus. And I agreed on the spot. I thought it was going to be an extremely exciting experience. And this is from an office memo that I wrote that night after the meeting. Young people will spend a good portion of their lives within this building. I expect this structure to be a second home. Perhaps this should be an academic village. And in writing those thoughts, it brought to mind yet another academic environment that had successfully inspired me, not St. James, but where I went to college, and that was the University of Virginia. Now, some of you may already know about the University of Virginia. I'll bore you for a few minutes just to sort of share with you why it was the inspiration for your school. The university was designed by Thomas Jefferson, and it opened in 1819, 200 years ago. And Jefferson, of course, served as the third president from 1801 to 1809. So 10 years after that, he spent his time creating this school. And upon his death, he declared that it wasn't the Declaration of Independence or being any number of political accomplishments that he had achieved, but rather the design of the school that was his most important accomplishment. And I have to say, having studied it closely, that in fact it was very thoughtfully done. I don't know if anybody can actually see this, but this is the original plan for the University of Virginia, right? So I'll share just a few details with you because it comes into play in a second. So the students lived in these little one-room dorms, right? And they were separating what are known as the pavilions. And that's where the professors lived, and they had classrooms down on the first floor. So they lived upstairs, and the students lived downstairs, and there was a little balcony that allowed the professors to go one to another without having to mingle with the students, because they were actually a pretty rough crowd. And all of the students lived in these clusters, and there were 10 pavilions. The grassy strip that runs down the middle is called the lawn, and its width was determined to be just the right distance from which everybody's face could be recognizable from one side or the other. All of the spaces opened onto the lawn, focusing the attention and energy of its occupants inward. At one end sits the rotunda, and that, whoops, let's go back a second, and that is that round building that you see right there. That's the library. And at the time, the dome of that library was the largest freestanding room in the country. This was the most progressive contemporary architecture of its time. Certainly not considered that as the inspiration for other projects today, but that was absolutely mildly modern. And as I frequently say, all great architecture was modern once. And this was the inspiration for the Pine School. So then look at the image that's on the right-hand side of this slide now. That's the Pine School, and that looks somewhat familiar, I hope. We didn't copy the university. The structures of 200 years ago would not be the model for the learning environment for today, but we studied its intentions, its goals. It inspired us to understand the characteristics that made its parts work together to create an environment that stimulated interaction, community, and learning. We understood the importance of placing the library at the center of the village, both symbolically and functionally. The idea that you would walk out your classroom door, see your fellow students across the lawn, and gather together beneath the library to exchange stories and plans. That idea worked for us. And the idea that unique architectural elements could give its occupants a sense of community, a sense of common belonging, that worked for us as well. So I tell the story about how Jefferson, throughout his life, I tell this to clients, he was always in pursuit of the largest pieces of glass that he could find for his house in Monticello. And these pieces of glass that he was interested in were only made in Europe, and they rarely survived the journey on the boat. Can't see this very well, but the actual small little panes of glass that are in the image of Monticello on the right and the rotunda at the university on the left are actually quite small. They're only about that big. And it frustrated Jefferson tremendously. And this obsession actually led to his bankruptcy because he was always pursuing the largest technology of the time, which was actually pieces of glass. He was looking to capture and control light through his designs. But today, we have that technology, that gift to capture and control light, and we used it in the design of the Pine School, just as Jefferson would have if he were alive today. So like the University of Virginia, the Pine School is a product of the technology of its time, not an attempt to replicate the past. Its design is not just inspired by the wisdom of the past, but constructed with the knowledge of today. So let's see, I'm going to look out here. That was vaguely interesting, right? That's sort of the learning portion of this. So when you look back on the Pine School campus, maybe you look at it a little differently. Your school was influenced by the imagination of one of America's founding fathers. So with that background, let me get to the part where I told you about that wrong turn that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And this is the advice section of the talk. And without that wrong turn, I don't think your school would probably be what it is today. It takes a long time to become an architect, usually 7 years of university followed by 3 years of work experience before you can actually sit to take the licensing exam. So that's 10 years of commitment before you can call yourself an architect. And it takes most people 13 to 14 years to complete the process. In my case, I passed it relatively early, and I immediately quit my job and opened my own office because, after all, that was the plan. I was going to be an architect. And that probably was the first step down the wrong path. Because during those first years, when I was lucky enough to get a project, I was so consumed with the idea of being an architect, I ignored all of the training and the reasons for which I pursued architecture in the first place. For instance, if as a client you came to me and you wanted a French chateau for your desert retreat, I was happy to oblige. I'd copy one from a book and I'd give it to you. I knew better. That style of architecture was inappropriate, not the correct solution, if it had been created for another time and space, another climate. But I was afraid to show the client what I knew to be a better solution because, despite all my years of training, I had not yet learned to add the confidence in my beliefs. Giving them what they wanted without challenging their request was taking the path of least resistance. I fell into a circular trap. While in the end the client was always happy, they got what they expected, but I was miserable and only going through the motions. I was making a living but not really practicing architecture. I wasn't doing what I loved. And while it took me many years, by this time I was approaching 40, I finally got up the energy to admit the error of my ways, and I quit what many would say was a successful practice, and I went back to architecture school at 42. I made that decision because I knew that the special opportunity that being in school gives you is the support and freedom within a defined community to discover what you really believe in and what you love, without the pressures that will ultimately distract your attention. In an academic village, it's a special time and a special place. So my advice is to recognize that and use it wisely. Use that protected environment to find what you love and develop the confidence to communicate why. Because lots of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them, and you just need the nerve to do it. And that experience resulted in the inspiration for the Pine School. So I'm going to finish up now. There's a saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I've learned that's not true. In fact, you'll work harder than you ever thought possible. But your tools will feel light in your hands. As you go into the world, don't waste time on problems that have already been solved. Don't just copy what others have done. Don't get hung up on what other people say is practical. See things differently. Steer your ship into the choppy seas. Look for the rough spots, the problems that seem too big, the complexities that other people are content to work around. It's in those places that you will find your purpose. It's there that you can make your greatest contribution. Whatever you do, don't make the mistake of being too cautious. Don't assume that by staying put, the ground won't move beneath your feet, and the status quo simply doesn't last. So get to work on building something better. And finally, as my wife asked me to say, remember to call your mother.
All right. Thank you so much. It's now time for the alma mater.
And sing along over the rain.
Seniors assembled here today have met the graduation requirements in high school and are ready to receive their diplomas. I present the class of 2019 to you and Mrs. Sexton.
Ladies and gentlemen assembled here today, we will now recognize these fine young men and women as graduates of the Pine School. I would like Mrs. Texter, Chair of the Board of Trustees, and Mr. Scott Hughes to join me down the stage as we award diplomas.
It is a tradition at the Pine School for all family members to stand for their child's recognition. Michael Joseph Agrama. Michael will be attending the University of Miami.
Michael would like to thank his teachers
Douglas Bassett Andrew II. Douglas will be taking a gap year to pursue his gaming career.
His family for supporting his efforts to entertain people, and to his brother Buddy for opening up his parents' eyes to his passion, as well as thanking his friends over the past 4 years, especially the boys. Y'all accepted him when he was moving to school and changed his life forever. Thank you.
Josie Elizabeth Milton. Josie will be attending Palm Beach State College.
Josie would like to thank her hard-working, beautiful, and supportive mom for working hard so that she could be the best she could be. She says, "Thanks, Mom, for making my day every day. I love you." Josie would like to thank her grandparents for all of their love and support and for helping her succeed. Lastly, she would like to thank Miss Carlin for being understanding and kind-hearted. Josie will never forget all of her memories made at Pine.
Aaron Israel Chanelis. Aaron will be attending Eckerd College.
I would like to thank his entire family for helping him through his journey and teaching him to always show respect and kindness to all people, no matter who they are. We would also like to thank all of his friends for standing by him through all the years. Also, I would like to thank every single person that ever gave him a car ride. He wouldn't be here without you.
Ronald Riley Davis. Riley will be attending Mercer University.
Riley would like to say thank you to his mom and dad for supporting him in everything he did. No matter what the situation or circumstances, no matter what the challenges he took on, you were always there for him when he needed you, and sometimes when he didn't. We weren't always the loudest parents, but we always knew where to find you, cheering him on like there was no tomorrow, even though most days you had to do the same thing the next day. He would like to say thank you to his sister for allowing him to follow her around and trying so hard to make him feel comfortable wherever they went, and always looking out for him and pushing him to be the best he could be, even if that meant screaming excessively loud in public. Y'all have been the best family anyone could ask for.
Jeffrey Ross Ehrlich. Jeffrey will be attending the University of Central Florida.
Jeffrey would like to thank his friends for always being there and for all the good memories they made together. He would also like to thank his teachers for providing him with opportunities to learn and grow. And lastly, he would like to thank his family for supporting him always, especially his mom for always being right by his side.
Ryan Thomas Ehrlich. Ryan will be attending the University of Central Florida.
Ryan would like to thank his mom for always being there for him, his dad and his brother Zach for his unique sense of humor that never fails to keep him entertained, his friends for all of the good memories we made, his brother Jeffrey for being a great brother and friend, and the high school community for always being supportive and helpful throughout his high school career.
Nicholas Howard Baca. Nick will be attending DePaul University.
Nick would like to thank his family for not only pushing him to do his best, but to also have fun in the process. He cannot wait to start his next chapter with you guys by his side.
Zachary Scott Feinberg. Zachary is taking Zachary to pursue his health career.
coaches for all of the support throughout high school. Zach will be taking a gap year to play Division I golf in the fall of 2020.
Erica Jordan Forster. Erica will be attending Tulane University.
Erica would first like to thank all of her teachers for their endless support, especially Miss Neely for being a great advisor and Mr. Haas for dealing with her for 2 classes a day. She would also like to thank Mr. and Miss Morrell for helping with her capstone and Ms. Shauna Reed for allowing her to volunteer for her organization. Finally, she would like to thank her mom and dad for everything they have done for her and her brother Alan for being her best friend. Roll away.
Vincenzo Julius Giordano. Enzo will be attending Belmont University.
Enzo would like to thank his parents for always being there for him and supporting him in everything. He wants to thank his teachers for believing in him every step of the way.
Dylan Taylor Gordon. Dylan will be attending Florida State University.
Dylan would like to thank his mom for always taking care of him. His dad always providing those dad jokes. His grandfather for teaching him what strength is. His family for consistently providing support and entertainment. His friends for always keeping life fresh and exciting, and all of the spectacular teachers and staff at Pine, making the last 6 years so memorable and inspiring.
Eric Matthew Guiamoni. Eric will be attending St. Leo University.
Eric would like to thank his family for keeping him alive all the years of high school. He wants to thank his family for giving him the opportunity to attend the Pine School.
Richard David Jacobs. Richard will be attending Xavier University.
Richard would like to thank his parents and friends for their endless support. He'd also like to thank all of the hard-working faculty who have been a great deal to him.
Noah Reese Coulter. Noah will be attending Florida State University.
Noah would like to thank all of his teachers from 5th to 12th grade for guiding him through his life and education. His friends and their families for allowing him to grow up with their children. His brother Jonah for returning here just to laugh with him at stupid stuff, and also for being by his side during difficult times. His mother and father for raising a man who values respect, honesty, knowledge, and family. For holding his hand all those 18 years, but sometimes letting him go to let him experience life on his own. And lastly, his religion for drastically changing his outlook on life and showing him that he is more than just another human.
Naya English Mayer. Naya will be attending the University of California, Berkeley.
Naya would like to thank her sister Julie for always encouraging her to be positive. Her her dad for pushing her to be the best she can be, and especially for her mom loving her unconditionally no matter what. She would also like to thank all of her friends for the best memories and for constantly lifting her up. She would also like to thank everyone at the Pine School for supporting her and giving her the best that she made and anything else for. Go with all of them.
Nicole and Maleka. Nicole will be attending Florida State University.
Nicole would like to thank her mom for all of her support throughout her life, especially these past few years. She also thanks her mom for teaching her what it means to pave one's own future and to continuously work hard and strive for both success and happiness. Nicole thanks her dad for all of his hard work and endless encouragement. She also wants to say thank you to Allie, Harley, and Ridgely for being truly the greatest sisters and best friends she could ask for. Nicole also thanks Max for being the greatest little brother. And lastly, to her teachers, thank you so much for all of your encouragement and guidance.
Sophia Renee Martin. Sophia will be attending Palm Beach State College.
Sophia would like to thank her mom and stepdad for putting up with her through her high school time.
Anna Grace McGovern. High school and will be attending Davidson College in the fall.
Anna would like to thank the Pine School community for being her second family. Her best friends for being by her side since 6th grade. Her father for his unfailing love, keeping no records of her wrongs, and showing her what it means to have a work ethic. Her mother for not only being her best friend, but for all of her sacrifices. And lastly, her golden retrievers for being the best stress relievers.
Jaden Michael Mecklin. Jaden will be attending Palm Beach State College.
Jaden would like to say thank you to his friends and family for helping him throughout his high school years and for making him the person he is today. We would also like to thank all the faculty members at the Pine School for making it a great community at learning area.
Sebastian Andres Owen. Sebastian will be attending Palm Beach State College.
Sebastian would like to thank his mom and dad for always being there for him and for supporting him in the things he loves. He thanks his sister for always being his #1 best friend. Shout out to the Legend Hugs.
Phoenix Bo Nestor Parker. Phoenix will be attending Loyola Marymount College.
Phoenix would like to say thank you to his parents for always believing in him and pushing him to his best. He would also like to thank his 3 sisters who will always be his best friends.
Catherine Donahue Kuczynski. Katie will be attending Dickinson College.
Katie would like to thank her coach, Richie Brown. His passion and drive to make her the best player she could be for Bill in her accomplishments throughout her high school years. Katie is so grateful for the impact that her coach has had not only in her tennis game, but also in her life. Second, she would like to thank her friends and family. Without the endless laughs and support, she would not be able to overcome the struggles that came along throughout her high school years. Third, she would like to thank her teachers. She has learned so much through the last 4 years and is so grateful to be moving on to the next chapter in her life with all the knowledge that she has been given. Lastly, she would like to thank her parents. She will never be able to put into words how much their close-knit relationship means to her. Through all the ups and downs, their limitless love and support has helped her grow into the person she is today.
Michael Vincent Pickett. Mikey will be attending Stetson University.
Michael would like to thank his mother and father for always supporting him and giving him the opportunity to attend the Pine School. He would also like all of his friends and teachers to always have his back.
Matthew Kelly Powers. Matthew will be attending Furman University.
Matthew would like to thank Mrs. Lettenbarger for pushing him on and off the field to become a respectful student athlete. He wants to thank Coach Soccerelli for never giving up on him and for always keeping him on his toes on the lacrosse field. He would also like to thank his sister Mary for being his #1 supporter through everything he does. Through the thick and thin, she has always been there for him, even when he was stuck in the curve. He wants to thank Michael and Mark for keeping the household competitive. Thank you to his friends, Ronald, Aaron, Dave, Noah, and Zoe and Dylan. These past 4 years will be unforgettable thanks to you guys, and you wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Thank you to the Pine School for helping him grow mentally and physically. And lastly, his beloved parents, Mark and Kimberly Powers. Thank you for shaping him into the successful young man he is today. He would have never been able to succeed without your words of wisdom.
Patricia Carey Ramsey. Patricia will be attending the University of Richmond.
Patricia would like to thank her mom for sacrificing so much for her in the past 4 years and encouraging her to be the best version of herself. She would also like to thank her man for all her love, support, and patience. She thanks her dad for pushing her and supporting her in academics. Patricia also wants to thank her brother and sister for being her most beloved friends and always making her love. Finally, she would like to thank all her teachers, especially Mr. Haas, for allowing her to succeed in high school. Go Spiders!
Jacqueline Grace Rouse. Jacqueline will take a gap year to pursue her art career.
Jacqueline would like to thank her parents for always supporting her and encouraging her to follow her path. She would like to thank her sister for always dancing right beside her. She would also like to thank Marie and Amy for all of her support in the arts and beyond.
Alyssa Lee Shuttle. Alyssa will be attending Florida Gulf Coast University.
Alyssa would first like to thank all her teachers for supporting her, in particular Miss Neely and Miss Hassman. Miss Neely has been an amazing advisor these past 3 years, and we're having so much fun together. Alyssa would also like to thank Miss Hassman for helping her through her struggles these past 2 years. Finally, she'd like to thank her family for always keeping her motivated to do her best, and always reminding her to keep her goals in mind.
Evan Gerald Shute. Evan will be attending Florida Atlantic University.
Evan would like to thank all of his teachers who have helped him get to this point. Most of all, he would like to thank his parents for helping him get through all of this too.
Olivia Bell Siegel. Olivia will be attending the University of California, Santa Barbara.
Olivia would like to thank her family and everyone who has become her family for their constant support and love. She knows no matter where she is in the world, they will always be there for her.
Drew Alexander Starr. Drew will be attending Syracuse University.
Drew would like to thank his parents for always being there for him, his twin sister for giving the best advice, his little brother for always making him laugh, his friends for all of the lifetime memories, and his teachers always pushing him to work harder each day.
Haley Jane Starr. Haley will be attending the University of Florida.
Haley would like to thank her mom for being her best friend, her dad for being her number one supporter, and for her brothers being the most caring and loving brothers she could ask for. She would not be the person today without you guys. She would also like to thank her grandmother for sacrificing so much and putting her life on pause so she could live out her cheerleading dreams. She loves you all very much and thanks you guys for the incredible support.
Matthew David Stevens. Matthew will be attending Ringling College of Art and Design.
Firstly, Matthew would like to thank all of his teachers at Time for being so understanding and helpful throughout his 3 years here. A special thanks to Mr. Nan for being a mentor and guiding him and for helping him find his passion. Last but not least, a huge thank you to his entire family, but especially his mom, dad, his older sister Stephanie, and his younger sister Jordan for helping him through it all and never leaving his side.
Gabriel Alexander Telemonti. Gabe will be attending the University of Pennsylvania.
Gabriel would like to thank his sister Lila for being an inspiration and providing helpful insight about college. His father Marcelo for setting an example of work ethic and excellence that he struggles to follow. His mother Anna Marie for her undying love, affection, and caregiving to his everyday life. And finally his brother Toby, who somehow managed to be a better brother than him while still being the younger sibling.
Robert Ireland Houghton. Robert will be attending the University of Miami.
Robert would like to thank his parents for sending him to Pine, the school staff for making him stay there the best it could be, and his teachers for pushing him to learn and to a better future.
Macy Grace Washer. Macy will be attending Flagler College.
Macy would like to say thank you to the class of 2019 for all the memories and friendship. She would like to thank all of her teachers for everything they have done for her throughout the years, especially Ms. Houseman for her constant love and support. She would like to thank her grandparents for always being there when it counts, and to her sister Mary for being her best friend. Macy would like to thank her parents for being there for her and supporting her in all of her endeavors.
Grace Elizabeth Wilson. Grace will be attending Boston College.
Grace would like to thank her family. She would like to thank her parents for constantly teaching her valuable life lessons. She would like to thank her two sisters for being her best friends. Also, she would like to thank her class for making the last 4 years amazing.
Graduates, please stand and face the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to high school youth alumni of class of 2016. Please move your class council from the right to the left, signifying your official graduation. You can have a seat. Congratulations, graduates. On behalf of me and the Board of Trustees, our pleasure to be honored today. Welcome again to the Pine Schools Alumni Association, as signified by your pinning just a little earlier. Your fellow alumni and all of us here hope you will become active alumni and always support the school in spirit and love. Now for our traditional rose ceremony. I want you to get out next for this one. Graduates, we welcome you at this time to come forward and honor your families.
New graduates, we have reached the end of our time together. So many have brought us to this place. Your families have offered their unwavering love and support. My colleagues at Pine, for whom I am immensely grateful, have worked tirelessly to educate you and create a school environment worthy of all our learning. You yourselves have dedicated the time and made the commitment needed to earn the honor we awarded today, a Pine School diploma. As we watch you recess and head out to the courtyard, toss your hats in the air, or hope the rain has stopped. Many of us will wonder how the school will stay without you as you leave. I sincerely hope that you hold on to my wish from last night's baccalaureate, that you remain curious, never stop learning, and be a model in this way to others. During the ceremony, you listened well. You leave today with more knowledge than you came. Let that always be the case when you open your ears and take the time to really hear others. I can't help but wonder, especially after hearing from Mr. Hughes today, what image or memory of this campus or school might stay with you. Will it be the view of our classroom building as it spreads out from the vantage of our hill? The reflection of the homecoming bonfire in our glass bridge? A familiar face across the classroom table? The winning goal scored by a teammate? The mass of students storming the gym after a field day victory? Whatever your image or memory, let it stay with you. And year by year, let its meaning grow. Dear students, keep the Pine School in your hearts. We will keep you in ours. To close our ceremony today with a benediction adopted from Tiffany L. Steinwerk when she was dean of Hendrix College at Syracuse University. Standing on the edge of possibility, we pause to drink in the deep sense of accomplishment, pride, and hope of this very moment. Suspended in time between a student's past and a graduate's future, we gather with abundant joy and overwhelming gratitude. This commencement embodies our vision of education as an engaged and dynamic partnership between the Pine School and our families, students, parents alike. Today we celebrate our collective commitment to respect, responsibility, honesty, and equality, to creating a better and more just world. May we bask in the joy of this day, and may the fierce dedication and patient perseverance that has brought us to this moment carry us forward to create a world marked by kindness and compassion beyond measure. Thank you.
Come back. We did this last year too. All right. Board of Trustees and faculty and staff will be first.